At the age of 43, actor and comedian John Candy died of a heart attack in his sleep in 1994. While his death was shocking at the time, looking back on his unhealthy lifestyle, family history of heart disease, and numerous bad habits, it's not surprising he passed away as young as he did. The world of comedy certainly lost one of its biggest and most beloved figures the day John died. It makes you wonder what he would have gone on to accomplish if he were to have lived a fuller life. Stay tuned as we'll be discussing how John Candy's health issues were way worse than we thought. His cause of death has been called into question. When John Candy passed away in March of 1994, he was on the set of the film Wagons East in Durango, Mexico. While his official cause of death was listed as a massive heart attack, Dr. Michael Hunter, a world-renowned forensic pathologist, firmly believes there were other key factors at play that contributed to his untimely passing. Dr. Hunter outlined his theories and suspicions in a 2019 docuseries that first aired on the Reelz cable network. The series, called Autopsy: John Candy, highlights Dr. Hunter's studies of the late Hollywood star's autopsy report while revealing his startling findings. Dr. Hunter is quick to point out that obesity played a significant role in John Candy's early death. Throughout his life, John struggled with his weight. Hunter discovered John was prone to bouts of binge eating that seemed specifically to coincide with career setbacks. Hunter further asserts that Candy's relationship with food was always particularly unhealthy and even potentially life-threatening at every chapter of his life. In the docuseries, one of Candy's longtime friends is quoted as saying that when he first met the actor at around 15 or 16, he was already smoking cigarettes. By the time John was 17, he was smoking at least a pack a day. Until he died, John was never able to give up the habit. Obviously, with everything we now know about the disastrous effects tobacco has on the body, this kind of habit, coupled with morbid obesity, proved a dangerous combination. Basically, it was a 1-2 punch that ultimately claimed his life. But even beyond these two things, there were still more alarming factors that contributed to Candy's death. In retrospect, they seem like the kind of red flags that friends and family members should have taken note of and tried to address with some kind of intervention. But hindsight is 20/20. Before we tell you more, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already.
Absolutely. Are you?
Another drug wreaked havoc on John Candy's heart. Smoking and overeating alone might have eventually killed John Candy, but it was his deep love for another substance that caused significant damage to his cardiovascular system. According to Dr. Hunter, Candy had a long history of drug use, cocaine specifically, that was beyond problematic. Candy once admitted that his drug habit began when he first moved to Chicago to perform with the Illinois branch of the Second City. There he was accompanied by the likes of Gilda Radner, Bill Murray, and John Belushi, all of whom were notorious heavy drug users at the time. At first, his substance abuse was limited to alcohol, but that soon progressed to the entire gambit of other drugs, including cocaine. He once admitted he used to drink, stay up real late, and spell drugs. After John Belushi's fatal overdose, Candy managed to put down drugs for a while, but he continued to smoke heavily and use food to cope with his anxiety. When that no longer seemed to work and stress and panic began to set in, a deep sense of inner turmoil followed the comic up until the set of his final film in Durango. No doubt his inner demons hastened his demise. He grew up with heart disease. John Candy was born October 31st, 1950, in Ontario, Canada. He was from a family of working-class parents. His father died of a sudden heart attack when John was only 5. This traumatic childhood event proved to be quite foreshadowing, as his dad not only had a heart condition as well, but he too was obese. Throughout his school years, Candy was quite the formidable player on the football field. He had hopes of playing it in college, but a knee injury put an abrupt end to that dream. So instead of pursuing sports, he transitioned into comedy before enrolling at Centennial College studying journalism. Eventually, he landed his big break when he was inducted into the improv comedy troupe Second City in 1972. Right from the get-go, however, behind his funny man persona, Candy was a deeply troubled man who didn't know how to deal with his troubles in anything resembling a healthy way. Behind the laughs and self-deprecating jabs, Candy was someone deeply dissatisfied with life and was horrified by what he saw as the inevitability of his demise. According to Carl Reiner, the director who worked with John in the 1985 comedy Summer Rental, Candy was preoccupied with a sense of fatalism. He felt he had inherited his father's genes and heart condition, and thus he was doomed. So in his eyes, it didn't matter what he did because at any point his number would be up. John's son Chris once said of his dad that he grew up with a heart disease. He added that John's father had a heart attack and so did his brother. In that way, it was somewhat of a family curse. His trainers did their best to point him in the right direction, and he took a stab at whatever new diet was trending. So it's not as if he lived with reckless abandon. In fact, Chris believes wholeheartedly his father did his best, but even so, there was always a morbid feeling that seemed to follow him wherever he went. Those who knew and loved him also couldn't help but think about it. John's brother-in-law, Frank Hober, said it was something that, quote, no one ever talked about, but deep down inside, they all knew what was coming. His legacy speaks for itself. John Candy's funeral was held at the St. Martin of Tours Catholic Church in L.A. He was interred in the mausoleum at the Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City. In the crypt where he was laid to rest, he's accompanied by fellow actor Fred McMurray. At his memorial service, held March 18, 1991, dozens of celebrities came out to pay their respects. The service was produced by his former Second City Improv troupe and was broadcast all throughout his home country of Canada. In 1998, Candy was inducted into the Canadian Walk of Fame. In 2006, he became the first of 4 entertainment icons honored with postage stamps put out by the Canadian Postal Service. Most recently, on what would have been his 70th birthday, October 31st, 2020, the mayor of Toronto, John Tory, declared it to be John Candy Day. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite movie John Candy was in? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to FactsVerse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content. By the way, if you haven't joined FactsVerse as a member yet, be sure to look below this video and click the join button. By becoming a paid member of FactsVerse, you'll get access to exclusive video content that you won't find anywhere else. This includes some of our more mature content that isn't suitable for public audiences, which includes topics like Hollywood actresses who posed for Playboy and some of the steamiest moments in movie history. Plus, you can enjoy these videos completely ad-free. Our biggest fans will notice they also get badges next to their name when they leave comments on our videos. We pay special attention to comments from our members, and so do other viewers. So if you want exclusive content from FactsVerse or inside access to discussions with other community members, click the join button to get started for just $4.99. There are hours of members-only videos waiting for you, with new videos added every month. And we're actively working on bringing even more features to help fans like you connect with other members and get more of your favorite content. Just click join, and we'll see you inside the membership tab.